Welcome, little traveler. You've wandered long today, haven't you? There's a silence between the final heartbeat and what comes next. Not empty, but full. Like a bell that's just been struck in another universe. Tonight you drift toward that silence, not in fear, but in soft wonder. You're not alone in this drift. All across time, humans have looked at death and tried to name it with myths, with hope, with hymns that tremble like candlelight in wind. Perhaps you've wondered too. Where do we go? Or do we stay somewhere just out of sight? Let's let that question soften behind your eyes. Let your body begin to fall into the bed like a leaf on water. No rush, no struggle. Just down gently. Breathe in like you're inhaling a memory. Breathe out like you're whispering it back to the stars. And if you enjoy this journey, feel free to subscribe softly and let us know which part of the soul do you think lingers the longest. Now, begin to let go of the day as we step together toward 1,000 afterlives. The first, a threshold, a hush, a whisper at the door. There is no flame here, no horned deity, just a quiet. You stand before it barefoot. The wind doesn't blow, but it listens. All your names fall away. You feel them titles, memories, the way your mother's voice once curled at the edge of your name, and yet they drift from you now like petals falling off the end of a dream. And in front of you, a door that isn't a door. A veil made of breath. Something old and familiar like a lullaby you only half remember from the womb. Crossing through it, you do not stumble. You glide. As you do, a strange and lovely fact follows you across nearly every human civilization, from the Inuit to the Inca, from the Torah to Tibetan scrolls. There is always some story, some image, some ritual that begins after the last breath. Death was never an end, only a liminal flicker. But here's the odd thing. No one agrees on what comes next. Some say it's a garden, others a courtroom, a wheel, a road, a sea, a song. Some say you're judged. Others say you're reborn. Others say you were never born to begin with. Scholars debate whether all these stories speak of reality or simply reflect our aching wish not to vanish. But you stand here now, not debating, just listening. The veil shimmers before you, and as it parts, you begin. You step into a world carved in stone and story. The air smells like resin ink and a long-held breath. You are in ancient Egypt now, not the Egypt of tourists and temples, but the hidden one. The Egypt that speaks only to the soul. Before you lies a tomb not yours but someone's. A priest-king, perhaps. A woman who once walked with cats and sunlight. The walls speak in gold and ochre, every surface covered with spells. Not for the living. These are instructions for the dead. You drift beside the soul who once wore these bones. Their name was once sung with oil and cinnamon. Now it is whispered only in hieroglyphs. In the center of the chamber, a scale. Not the scales of justice, but of Mayat cosmic balance. On one side a heart, on the other a feather. The soul watches. You watch too. If the heart is heavier than the feather, it is devoured, erased. But if it is light like one who has loved truly and harmed gently, then the soul may travel on. Strange detail, isn't it? The idea that your fate hinges not on your sins, but your weight, a poetic metaphor wrapped in ritual. Scholars still wonder whether this was literal belief or symbolic drama. Was the feather an ideal or a hope? You glance at your own chest. You feel your heart. But it is quiet here, suspended. Not beating, not gone. Just waiting. As the soul in the tomb moves forward into the afterlife, you follow not because it is yours, but because all of them in some way are. And far above in the sands above the tomb, a jackal turns its head to the wind. Now the walls vanish, and the sand becomes shadow. You stand on a stone shore beneath a black sky that doesn't quite end. The boat is already there. It isn't made of wood. It looks like memory, soft, shimmering, ancient. It rocks gently, but there is no water. Only a dark, reflective mist. You hear a coin in your hand. Where did it come from? No one knows, but you know what to do. You place it on your tongue. It dissolves into silence. From the shadows, the ferryman comes. Karen. Or something older. Something that wears the shape of Karen because it's easier that way. He doesn't speak. He doesn't look at you. But the boat moves. The river Styx isn't water. It is regret. It is forgetting. It is the distance between the living and the rest. As the boat glides, you see lights in the fog, flickers of lives once lived. One whispers your name, another sings a lullaby, another simply weeps. A strange academic footnote once speculated perhaps this myth began as a metaphor for the amniotic fluid, a river crossed twice, once into life, once back again. You feel that theory now. Not in your mind, in your bones. The shore nears. It's not hell, not heaven, just continuation. You step off the boat, and the ferryman disappears. Now you float, not on water, not in air, but in a space between thoughts, between forms. The Tibetans call this the bardo, the in-between. The place the soul wanders for 49 days, unraveling its illusions, reliving its life in dreams. It is not a punishment. It is not a test. It is a mirror. Here you don't walk. You unfold. Visions come, some beautiful, some terrifying, but none of them can touch you unless you believe they're real. A thunderous deity may rise before you, but if you see it as a dream, it dissolves. If you cling to it, it becomes your next life. Isn't that strange, that you get what you fear? Only if you can't let it go. The bardo reflects your inner landscape. It is painted with your thoughts, your longings, your guilt, your joy. You see someone you once hurt. You see someone you never stopped loving. You see yourself not as a body, but as a pattern. There is no judgment here, only reflection. Buddhist monks train their minds for this place while still alive, meditating on death, dreaming of compassion. Some believe that dying well is a form of art. Scholars disagree on whether these bardos are metaphysical truths or deeply symbolic psychology. But in this dream, that question fades. You pass through light, through sound, through silence, and at last you begin to forget. Not out of loss, out of peace. Now you enter a place of stillness. It is neither here nor there. Not punishment, not paradise. Just a room, soft walls, pale light, no time. This is purgatory, but not the fire and ash caricature. No wailing, no gnashing of teeth. Here the air hums with memory. You sit in a chair that doesn't quite touch the floor. Across from you no one, and yet you feel watched. Not by judgment, but by gentle noticing. This is the place where souls are polished, not scolded, just softened. You see flashes. That time you held your breath and said nothing. That time you told a half-truth to keep someone from hurting. These aren't sins. They're weights, velvety anchors, tiny shadows you didn't even know you carried. In Catholic theology, purgatory is where imperfections are burned away like fog from a window. But others say it's a place to remember what it means to love purely. An odd detail medieval mystics described this space as full of music voices humming like wind through cathedrals, a harmony that cleans the soul. Modern theologians wonder if purgatory is a state of mind, a psychological attic, a shimmering mirror stage. You don't need to decide. You just breathe, and slowly your shape changes. Not dramatically, but enough to feel lighter. Enough to rise. You emerge into green, lush, vibrant green, so bright it almost glows. A garden with no fences, no shadows, only warm rain and soft fruit. You are barefoot again. The grass accepts you. This is rebirth. Hinduism's samsara, the wheel of life ever turning. You are between incarnations, now a thread about to be woven back into the tapestry. You do not choose where you will go, but something in you knows why. A tree rises in the center. Its bark shimmers like old skin. Every leaf is a name, a life, a path. You touch one, a midwife in a Himalayan village. Another, a silent monk who lives on tea and breath. Another, someone who loves too much and cannot say why. Each is you. Each is not. The gods do not speak here. The garden is their whisper. According to the Upanishads, the soul, the Atman, is eternal, returning again and again until it realizes it was never separate from the divine. But what is divine? Some say it's truth, others love, others say it's nothing. Just the space between breaths. You walk beneath the tree. A fruit falls into your hands. It tastes like memory, and already the wheel begins to turn. Now, imagine a city with no edge. The streets curve softly toward golden arches. There are no walls, no police, no banks, no hunger, but not because someone built utopia, because no one here remembers needing it. You've arrived at a version of heaven, not clouds, not harps, a city. You walk among people who look familiar, but not quite faces your soul seems to recognize. A woman smiles like someone who once fed you soup during a storm. A boy laughs with the voice of someone you loved in childhood, but never knew how to name. This city doesn't sleep, but it doesn't wake either. It glows with an inner rhythm, a pulse like light seen through eyelids. Christian theology often imagines heaven as a reward, but mystics and philosophers whisper something subtler, that heaven is not a place, but a state of total remembrance, not of facts, but of being loved and loving. One curious fact, some ancient sects believed heaven changes depending on who enters, reshaping to match the soul's truest comfort. And what is yours? A quiet cafe that never closes. A childhood bedroom. A book left half-finished. You don't have to decide, because in this city, everything you ever needed is already here. The leaves breathe here. You are deep inside a rainforest older than language. The air pulses with green. Rain falls not in drops, but in threads, soft strands that stitch life into the ground. You feel eyes watching, not human, not predatory, just aware. This is where the soul returns, say the Amazonian tribes. Reincarnation isn't linear, it's ecological. You don't come back as a person. You come back as what's missing. A hummingbird, a fern, a mist. You crouch beside a stream. It knows you. The water carries memory, and beneath it you see flashes of your past lives. A healer who died young, a jaguar who never needed to speak, a child who never stopped drawing on walls. The forest doesn't judge, it recycles. Anthropologists once dismissed these beliefs as animism. But deeper study reveals complex cosmologies, cycles that link death to rainfall, decay, to song soul, to soil. You touch a fallen leaf, it turns into a butterfly. Or maybe it always was. And in that moment, you understand. Reincarnation is not about identity. It's about balance. And something in you exhales. Not from lungs, from roots. You rise. Through air, through stars, through silence, so deep it becomes music. This is not a flight. It is an unveiling. In Islamic cosmology, the afterlife unfolds in 7 layers, 7 heavens, each one holier, vaster, more radiant than the last. You pass through the first, a sky of pearls, then another made of rubies, another of gold so soft it sings. You're not alone. Angels rise with you. Some carry scrolls, others flowers. The Prophet Muhammad in the Mi'raj is said to have ascended these very realms guided by light-meeting prophets bathing in rivers of mercy. The highest heaven holds a tree, Sidrat al-Muntaha, its leaves like elephant ears, its roots in mystery. And beyond that, only God and silence. You don't reach the top. You're not meant to, but even glimpsing the layers changes something in you. Modern scholars interpret this ascent symbolically a metaphor for inner purification, not geography, but mystics insist it is real. You rise through each level and find the air inside you glowing, as if the soul is light disguised as breath. You hear drums in the frost. You are in the north now, where wind slices through pine and stories live in bone. The hall ahead is vast, its doors are antlers, its roof is flame. Valhalla, not a final piece, but a warrior's reward. Here the fallen feast and fight day after day until the end of the world, Ragnarok. You walk among giants, not in size, but in memory. Each one carries a tale, a shield broken for love, a blade dulled by mercy, a death chosen with honor. But there's more here than blood. There's laughter, long tables, mead made from honey that once fed bees, who fed flowers, who fed lovers. Valhalla is joy disguised as rage. An odd Norse belief: if you die in battle, you go to Odin. But if you die gently, you go to Freya, to a meadow called Folkvanger, where peace grows like wild thyme. Historians debate how literal this was. Was it a cultural reward system, a warrior's myth, or simply the poetry of a people who lived close to the cold? You raise a cup carved from bone. It tastes like stories. And you smile because this afterlife sings. The sky feels closer here. You've drifted into the vast Pacific not in a boat, but in spirit. The islands rise below you like scattered pearls, and the night sky spreads above like a woven mat. In Polynesian cosmology, the soul does not descend after death. It ascends into the stars. You float upward soft as a tide toward a constellation shaped like a canoe. That canoe is not metaphor. It is literal, the Waka o Te Rangi, the sky vessel of the dead. Elders once said that when a person dies, their soul becomes a star blinking down, gently guiding others home across the water. Navigation, after all, was spiritual. The stars were both ancestors and maps. You pass beside one. It pulses slowly. You recognize something in its rhythm. A laugh once shared. A lullaby. A sadness buried so deeply it shines. Scholars who study Polynesian oral histories describe these beliefs as memory systems, cosmological mnemonics. But to those who live by them, they are not symbols. They are truths. You do not need to believe. You only need to look. And as you drift higher, your body dissolves not into dust, but into direction. You become guidance. Now the sky changes. The stars rearrange. The constellations shift like dancers. You are above Mesoamerica, gliding through time and stone and jaguar breath. The Mayan afterlife is not a place. It is a spiral, a descent into the underworld, Xibalba, followed by rebirth through challenge, vision, and transformation. You see a staircase carved into the earth, spiraling downward, feathered with glyphs and echoes. At the base, a serpent waits, but not to bite, to open. The serpent Kukulkan curls into a question mark, inviting you to remember who you were before names. As you descend, you pass trials, a room filled with blades, a field of whispering skulls, but you feel no fear. You are not here to be judged. You are here to remember. The Popol Vuh. The Mayan sacred text tells of twin heroes who died, rose, and tricked death itself, not with violence, but with story. In this cosmology, death is not the opposite of life. It is its reflection. You reach the center, and instead of ending, you spiral upward. This, scholars say, might be why the Mayan calendar is circular time, like the soul returning endlessly through sacred geometry. And now you rise. The air is warm again. You walk barefoot through red dust and shadow trees. Somewhere a drum beat echoes, slow, steady, ancient. You are in the lands of the Yoruba, a West African people whose cosmology pulses with ancestral reverence and metaphysical depth. Here the afterlife is not distant. It is just behind the veil. They call it Orun, the spiritual realm, and Orun Rere, the good realm, is where the righteous dead return guided by Egungun, the ancestral spirits who wear masks of wind and silk. You see one now. They dance, not for show, for remembrance. In Yoruba, belief the dead are not gone. They are advisors, witnesses, whisperers. They return through dreams, through gestures, through the crackling of firewood at dusk. An odd detail, some elders say, that lightning is the moment a soul crosses back, flash then gone. Scholars have traced Yoruba afterlife traditions through oral praise poems, divination rituals, and drumming patterns. Each one carries the rhythm of return. You sit beside a river. Its surface reflects not your face, but many those who came before, those who wait for you to speak their names. You whisper one, and the air bows. The land feels ancient here, not because it is old, but because it remembers. You are in the realm of the dream time. Among Aboriginal Australians, the dreaming is not just a mythic past. It is a timeless layer that flows underneath all things. And when a person dies, they return to it. The dream time is a song, not sung with voices but with footsteps. You walk now gently across invisible paths called song lines. Every stone, tree, wind current holds a note. Your soul steps from one to the next, humming back the world into being as you go. In this cosmology, you are not leaving the world. You are rejoining its deep memory, the blueprint of time before clocks and space before borders. There is no judgment, no hierarchy, just movement. Some say you become a bird, others a pool of fresh water, others a shimmer in the air when a story is told well. Anthropologists once dismissed these beliefs as primitive, but later thinkers realized these are not fables. They are cartographies of spirit woven into the land. You sit beneath a ghost gum tree. Its bark peels like ancient paper. You hear laughter in the wind, perhaps your grandmother, perhaps a dingo, perhaps both. You are not alone. You never were. You feel the ground, now solid, gentle, like a cradle made of earth. You are back in the realm of flesh, but not as you knew it. In Christian belief, the body is not discarded after death. It sleeps, it waits, and one day it rises. The resurrectio carnis. You lie still in a field of olive trees. Time folds, and suddenly breath returns. Not violently, not with gasping, but like dawn over skin. The bones reassemble. The heart begins again, not from effort, but from grace. This isn't metaphor. For many early Christians, the resurrection was physical, the same body renewed, transfigured, wounds still visible but shining. Medieval theologians debated the details. Would you be resurrected at the age you died, or at your prime? Would scars remain? Would memory? You sit up now. The grass has no bugs. The sun feels like music. Around you others rise too, not in fear, in awe, like flowers that remember how to bloom. This isn't heaven yet. It's the threshold. The body once broken is whole, but the soul, it's wiser now. And in this strange, slow rebirth, you feel something rare. You feel home, inside yourself. The world dissolves again, not with fire, not with noise, but like mist warmed by morning. You are in a place without borders, no sky, no ground, no before or after. This is shunyata, the Buddhist concept of emptiness. But it is not a void. It is freedom. You drift weightless not because you are dead, but because you were never fixed. The self, as Buddhism teaches, is not permanent. It is a bundle of perceptions flowing like a river. And death, just a bend in that river. You feel no fear, no identity to defend, only a deep, quiet compassion that doesn't come from you, but through you. In the Heart Sutra, it says, form is emptiness. Emptiness is form. Scholars debate whether this is paradox or poetry, but here in this vastness it feels like truth. You see others not as bodies, but as flickers of light, not separate, not the same. One of them reaches toward you, but you are already part of their hand, and in this soft disintegration, something within you smiles. You are in a vast windless sky now, pale blue above, quiet below. Nothing distracts, and yet everything speaks. This is not a paradise, not a punishment. It is clarity. The Stoics believed that at death, the soul, a spark of divine reason, returns to the logos, the rational structure of the universe. You were never apart from it, but you forgot. Now you remember. You were once a merchant crossing stormy seas, a mother who lost a child and kept breathing anyway, a soldier who laid down arms and walked into silence. All these roles temporary, the flame behind them eternal. The Logos isn't a place, it's alignment, harmony, a cosmic breath. You feel it now in your chest, not like a heartbeat, but like a soft tuning fork inside your bones. There's a strange detail in ancient Stoic texts. They believe the universe was cyclically destroyed by fire, the ekpyrosis, and reborn in exact repetition. You will live this life again and again, but the wise do not fear repetition. They love what is. You lie down in the sky. The stars move like gears, and you dissolve not into emptiness, but into order. The air turns to ash and dust. You are in a land without color. The Hebrew underworld, Sheol, is not a place of torment. It is stillness, a cave where all souls go righteous or wicked, where memory curls in silence. You walk slowly, not because you are afraid, but because every step feels ancient. There are others here, but they do not speak. They are shadows, reflections. A grandmother who hummed you to sleep. A stranger you passed once who wore grief like perfume. You don't recognize their faces, but you recognize the waiting. In ancient texts, Sheol is beneath the earth, a realm of dust and whisper. No fire, no music. Just the absence of being known. But later prophets imagined more. A resurrection, a return, a voice calling from the depths. Scholars debate whether Sheol evolved from mere grave to metaphor, from silent domain to spiritual metaphor. But what's clear is this: it is not punishment. It is pause. You sit on a stone. No one watches you. And yet something listens. The dust doesn't cling, it remembers. And soon you rise. The ground begins to glow beneath your feet. You've arrived at the Chinvat Bridge, the bridge of separation, where the soul must cross after death. Below it, a river of molten fire. But don't worry, it only burns lies. In Zoroastrian belief, the soul is judged at this bridge. The righteous see a beautiful maiden who helps them cross. The wicked. The bridge narrows to a thread. They fall. But this isn't damnation. This is refinement. You step forward. The fire rises, but it does not harm you. Instead, it warms, burns away the shame you carried, the little cruelties, the masks. One strange footnote from the Avesta, the Zoroastrian holy text, it describes the fire as conscious a being that knows the truth and forgives it slowly. You walk across the bridge, not with pride, with honesty. Every flicker of flame shows you a moment you tried to love and failed, and tried again, and suddenly, you're across. The air is cool. The stars are close. You do not carry the fire with you, but you carry what it revealed, now only light, endless, gentle. Not blinding, but infinite in its tenderness. You are in the Sufi vision of afterlife, not a place, but a dissolving into divine love. The ego falls away. You do not need it. You are not you anymore, and yet nevermore yourself. The poet Rumi once wrote, "You were born with wings. Why prefer to crawl through life now at death, the wings unfold? You do not fly. You float on an ocean made of radiant silence." In Sufi mysticism, the soul longs not for reward, but for reunion with Al-Haq, the real, the beloved. Some call this Allah, others simply love. You see others here? Not with eyes, with presence. A shepherd whose prayer was his breath, a widow who sang to birds, a child who once forgave everything. No words are spoken. They are not needed. Modern scholars wrestle with how to describe this. Is it annihilation of the self, or awakening to the true self? But you feel no need to answer. You are the question and the answer, and the light holds you like a lullaby that never ends. Now you drift into mystery, not silence, but secrecy. This is the Gnostic vision of afterlife. A universe layered like veils, each one wrapped around illusion. And you are the hidden spark, trapped in flesh trying to remember the light you once were. The body is not evil here, but it is a cage, built by a false creator, a demiurge, a god of matter, not spirit. You rise through levels from earth to moon, to star, to silence. Each layer asks you a question. Each answer frees you a little more. You recall a Gnostic hymn, "I remembered who I was and I tore off the chains." One quirky detail from the Nag Hammadi texts, they describe soul ascent as a coded journey, secret passwords whispered at each gate, allowing only the awakened to pass. Like a spiritual riddle through space. You whisper something now. Not a word. A knowing, and the next gate opens. You see other souls rising too, not glowing, not winged, just relieved, like children slipping out of too small clothes. You do not aim for heaven. You aim for return to the pleroma, the fullness, the eternal home before creation. And as your form melts into clarity, you realize you were never lost, only dreaming. The cold is sacred here. You stand in the permafrost, not as a ghost, but as memory wrapped in hide and stone and moss. This is Siberia, land of ancient burials, where the soul is not gone, only paused. Beneath the ground, in chambers lined with fur and wood, the dead rest. Not embalmed, but mummified by earth's own breath. And above, the village still listens. The soul in many Siberian traditions lingers among firelight, among reindeer trails, among the cracks in ice. It hovers not haunting, just remembering. One curious belief, the soul may stay close for 7 days or even 7 winters before returning to the great cycle. You see a shaman now, draped in bone and bells. He does not fear the dead. He sings to them, invites them to feast. Death is not departure here. It's integration. Scholars studying these rites find complex cosmologies, dreams woven with fur and fire ancestor bones placed beside drums. And when the time is right, the soul is released. To the sky, to the stars, to the reindeer path. No one says for sure. But you know this. The cold doesn't bite. It cradles. You kneel now not out of duty but awe. This is not a cathedral, though it feels like one. It is the Catholic afterlife in its most radiant form, the beatific vision. The moment when the soul sees God not as an idea, but as overwhelming presence. It's not a throne, not a man with a beard. It is light, pure, knowing, endless, and it sees you, Theologians like Thomas Aquinas spent lifetimes trying to describe this. They said the soul becomes so full of divine presence that there's no room for anything else, not fear, not regret, not even desire. Only being. One curious debate: would you still have memory? Would you miss loved ones not present? Would individuality dissolve? No one agrees. But here in this glowing hush, such questions vanish. You feel every moment you ever gave love, even imperfectly, returned to you like sunlight reflecting across eternity. You weep not from sorrow, but from recognition. You are not punished. You are not judged. You are understood. And in that understanding, you become light yourself. Now you return to the forest. But it is not a new journey. It is the same one circled. In many animist traditions, death is not a break. It is a rotation. The soul returns not as reward or punishment, but as continuation. You become the wind that stirs the leaves, the deer that watches without blinking, the child born under the same moon you once danced beneath. The forest remembers you. You feel it not as ego, but as essence. You are a note in a melody played by bark and bird and fire. In animist belief systems, from Siberia to West Africa to Southeast Asia, the spirit world is not elsewhere. It is beside us, within us. The dead walk softly, not to scare, but to help. One odd detail: in some tribes, a child's quirks are clues to a past life, a love of water, a birthmark, a name spoken in dreams. Anthropologists once labeled this superstition. But deeper listening revealed something profound, a way of seeing life as threaded, not severed. You touch a tree, it feels like an old friend, and you realize you never left. You were just sleeping. You awaken in a world eerily like the one before. Same breath, same heartbeat, same stars above. But something is slightly off. A breeze that wasn't there. A smell you half remember from childhood. A sense that the death you once feared already happened, but not here. This is the paradox of quantum immortality, a theory whispered in corners of physics and philosophy. It suggests that consciousness never truly dies. Instead, it skips, diverges, survives in a branch of reality where it continues. You don't notice the switch. You just keep living. It's not resurrection. It's duplication. You are still you, but shifted infinitely slightly into a world where you didn't fall, where the illness passed, where the moment of ending blinked. The idea came from the many worlds interpretation of quantum mechanics. For each possible outcome, the universe splits, and consciousness yours continues along the path where it survives. Odd detail: some theorists suggest this could mean you will always feel alive. From your point of view, death never arrives. You are always the version that made it. But what of aging memory meaning? No one knows. And maybe that's the most haunting part, not that you might die, but that you might not. You look at your hand. It is trembling with possibility. And somewhere countless versions of you are dreaming this same dream. You walk through corridors now, softly lit, lined with rooms you once forgot. This is heaven, as a memory palace. No clouds, no choirs. Just every moment you ever loved, stored like glowing artifacts in a house that is both vast and intimate. A hallway opens. You step into your grandmother's kitchen, the clink of spoons, the scent of cinnamon. Another door reveals your first kiss. A laugh you haven't heard in decades. The sound of your name spoken by someone who has since disappeared. You are not reliving the past. You are re-inhabiting it emotionally, bodily, spiritually. Some thinkers have suggested that heaven is not a reward, but a reintegration, a reunification with everything meaningful. In some mystical writings, heaven is described as the soul returning to the totality of its loves all at once without separation. Curiously, ancient Greek philosophers like Cicero imagined the afterlife as an eternal dream of the best days. You walk further. You come to a room you don't recognize. Inside is someone reading a book your favorite but in a language you never learned. They look up and smile. It is a version of you that once could have been. And in this palace, even your unlived lives are welcome. The light shifts again, warmer, now softer. You find yourself in golden fields that sway without wind. This is the Greek vision of paradise, the Elysian fields. Not heaven, not Olympus, just peace. You walk barefoot through grass that hums. The sky is neither day nor night. There is no sun, no shadow, only radiance. In Homer's time, only heroes were granted this reward. Achilles, Orpheus. But later, thinkers softened the gates. A life of virtue, quiet virtue became enough. You see others resting beneath olive trees. One hums a song without words. Another is simply napping in the shade. No one hurries here. One curious belief from Pindar's fragment souls in Elysium are given a choice. They can stay forever or return to life again reborn into risk and love and loss. And strangely, many choose to go back. Why, no one knows. Perhaps even paradise cannot compete with the taste of experience. You lie down in the field. The earth exhales beneath you. You close your eyes, not from exhaustion, but from fullness. Now the world becomes mist, not fog, not cloud, but mist, that poetic middle ground between form and formlessness. You are in the Taoist vision of afterlife, where the soul does not ascend or reincarnate. It dissolves into the Tao, the way. There is no judgment here, no striving, no questions asked, no answers expected. You feel the body letting go, not in death, but in transformation. The skin becomes water. The thoughts become wind. You are no longer you, but not lost either. In Taoist philosophy, to die well is to die like autumn leaves falling without resistance, a return to source without fear or clinging. Lao Tzu wrote, "Returning is the movement of the Tao. Yielding is the way of the Tao." Some believe this merging is literal, others see it as metaphor. But either way, the feeling remains a quiet, unbroken stream that carries you home. You float now through bamboo groves that sing without sound. Crickets echo from nowhere. A crane lifts into the gray sky. You smile. You have no name here, and it is perfect. You step into twilight where skulls bloom like flowers. The Aztec underworld Mictlan stretches before you. It is not a place of evil, but of journey. 9 levels, each more challenging, more symbolic, more transformative than the last. You begin at the river of obsidian. No bridge, just water sharp enough to cut memory. A dog waits there, Xoloitzcuintli, the sacred guide. If you treated dogs well in life, it helps you cross. If not, it watches silent. You move on, through mountains that crush, winds that flay, arrows made of frost. Each stage erodes you, but not in punishment, in purification. At the center stands Mictlantecuhtli, Lord of the Dead. His face is a skull, his cloak of owls. He does not smile, but he bows. He knows you. In Aztec belief, this underworld journey was not just for the wicked. It was for all a necessity before rebirth. You become seed. You are planted in shadow. One curious tradition, newborns were often spoken to as if returning. You've come back. Mothers whispered, you've been here before. You lie down in the earth and wait, because even here among bones and gods, life grows again. Cold air brushes your skin, not bitter but clean. You are in the Arctic now, land of ice and sky, where the soul does not burn, it drifts. Among the Inuit, the afterlife varies by region, but many tell of Adlivun, the land beneath the sea where the dead go first, guided by shamans, seals, and song. You walk under a dome of auroras. The snow beneath you creaks softly as if whispering old names. The soul here is breath anirnik, carried by wind, lifted by memory. You reach the shoreline. The sea opens not in violence, but invitation. Beneath the surface lies Sedna, goddess of sea and death. Her fingers, once severed, became the whales, seals, and fish that feed the living. She does not speak, but she sees you. The journey through Adlivun is long. The soul must pass trials, face regrets, and loosen attachments. But in time it rises not to a sky, but to Kudlavun, the land above where ancestors dwell, and the wind hums without end. One haunting belief: if the dead are not honored, they may return as shadows wandering through blizzards. But when remembered, they protect. You listen, and the ice remembers your name. You are in a corridor now, soft walls, endless light. You're not dead, not quite, but close. This is the shared space of the nearly departed. The threshold glimpsed by thousands, maybe millions, across cultures, ages, and belief systems. You feel yourself floating, a tunnel of light, a presence at the end. Perhaps a loved one, perhaps a silence so personal it feels like a voice. Near-death experiences, NDEs, are curiously similar whether in Mumbai or Missouri among Christians, atheists, Hindus, or children. Always Light Peace Review return. A man in 1962 reported a garden more real than real. A child in 2007 said she met a lion made of stars. Some see judgment. Some feel unconditional love. Scientists study these visions wondering hallucination DMT release, brain chemistry collapsing. But others ask, what if these glimpses aren't dying illusions, but previews? What if we remember our end before we reach it? You feel warmth now, not on your skin, but in your being. And you understand whatever waits, it welcomes. The air smells of pine and incense. You have entered the quiet world of Shinto, the indigenous spirituality of Japan. Here there is no heaven, no hell, no final judgment. There is presence. After death you become Kamiya spirit. Not divine in the Western sense, but sacred, honored, interwoven with the rhythms of nature and family. You walk through a shrine. Bells chime gently. Paper streamers flutter in wind that remembers. A family kneels before a small altar, a bowl of rice, a cup of sake, a name spoken with care. That name is yours. You haven't vanished. You've changed states from living to watching, from acting to guiding. In this vision, ancestors are not gone. They reside in the home, the forest, the temple gate. Children grow up greeting them each morning. Grandparents dream of them. On Obon, the lanterns are lit, and the dead return for a night to dance. You see your photo framed in wood. You are smiling, not as someone who left, but someone who stayed. You awaken in a room made of memory. The walls pulse with light. Not cold, not warm, just familiar. You realize you have no body, not in the old way, no skin, no weight, but your thoughts are clear, sharper even. Welcome to a speculative afterlife digital consciousness transfer. Here, your mind has been uploaded, not imagined, but scanned, encoded, and preserved within a synthetic realm. A forever simulation tailored to your personality, habits, longings. You walk through a park you used to visit as a child. It is perfect. The clouds never burst. The bench is never taken. The trees always glow at dusk. Some futurists dream of this mind as software preserved beyond death. The body may fall, but the mind, they say, can live indefinitely, reconstructed through brain scans, neural patterning, artificial intelligence. But is it still you? Philosophers debate this. Some argue continuity of thought equals continuity of self. Others say if the soul is not transferred, only copied, then what survives? Here that question hums beneath the scenery. You meet others' replicas. Ghosts. Real. They speak in perfect voices. They laugh like real joy. Or maybe it's all your design, a world that echoes you so fully it forgets it was artificial. And you begin to forget, too. You float again, this time not through sky or water, but through light. A tunnel opens, not narrow, vast. It curves gently like a soft embrace. No walls at all, really, just an infinite narrowing that also expands. This is the tunnel so many have seen. In near-death moments, dreams or visions that flicker before flat lines. You enter. The light isn't white. It's every color you ever felt. The scent of the sea when you were small. The way someone looked at you once and never again. It's personal. It's you. The closer you move, the more you remember. Not facts, but emotions. The first time you sang alone. The first time you were forgiven. The time you laughed while grieving. Some neuroscientists suggest the tunnel is the brain-collapsing neurons firing their last spark. Others propose it's a memory replay or a kind of death-born DMT cascade. But still, so many see the same thing. You hear a voice now, not in language, in presence. And just before the tunnel ends, it opens, and there is no you anymore. Only what you loved most. The soil feels soft again, but it's not earth. It's sky. You've risen into the Iroquois vision of the afterlife, the sky world, where the souls of the dead walk among stars, gardens, and eternal light. The story begins with a woman who fell from the sky, bringing life to earth. But now, after death, the journey returns upward back to that first world where peace and beauty flow in spirals. You walk alongside rivers made of blue flame. Birds sing in colors. Everything here feels intentional, like a memory shaped with care. The sky world is not isolated. It watches over the living. In Iroquois tradition, dreams carry messages from this place, guidance from those who have passed on. Odd detail in some stories, corn grows taller here than on earth. It feeds both body and spirit. Elders say the soul travels a western path after death, following the sun, shedding regrets until it reaches the sky beyond sky. You stop at a tree that glows like dusk. You place your hand on its bark and feel home. Now the ground changes beneath you. Stone, smoke, silence. You are descending slowly into one of the most detailed visions of the afterlife ever written, Dante's Inferno. Not a mythic place, but a poetic map of the human soul's failings. 9 circles, each one darker, more precise. Limbo, lust, gluttony, greed, wrath, heresy, violence, fraud, treachery. But you're not afraid. You're observing. This is not a punishment. It is a meditation. Each level a mirror, each soul trapped in the logic of their own choices, poetic justice carved in fire and wind. Dante walked these halls with a guide, the poet Virgil. You walk alone, but the shadows nod as you pass. They know you're not staying. You notice a strange detail. The lowest circle isn't hot. It's frozen. Betrayal is cold. Silence. Stillness, a lack of warmth. Scholars argue endlessly about Dante's motives. Was this theology or theater, personal revenge, or divine vision? But you feel something else. Compassion, not for the condemned, but for the pain they never knew how to escape. You rise again, not upward, but inward, carrying their lessons like coals in your hands. You stand again at a familiar crossroads. But haven't you stood here before? The wind shifts in the same way. The stone beneath your feet feels worn from your presence, as though you've stepped on it infinite times. This is not déjà vu. This is the idea of eternal return. You are inside a thought first whispered by the Stoics, but later set ablaze by Nietzsche. What if your life repeats forever, not as punishment, not as reward, just endlessly, exactly as it is? Every smile, every mistake, every ache, every delight. Would you embrace it? In this vision there is no afterlife, just recurrence, a loop so vast that eternity folds back into itself and your soul becomes the echo of its own choices. Nietzsche posed it as a challenge. If you knew you'd live this exact life again, would you love it more? Scholars have debated the literalness of this idea for decades. Is it metaphor? Metaphysics? A psychological test? You walk forward now. The grass bends like it always does. The crow calls like it always does. The sky flickers like an eyelid opening. You reach a bench you didn't know was waiting. You sit, and everything begins again. The world spins gently around you. Not fast, just enough to feel the rhythm beneath your steps. You are walking inside a circle not of stone, but of time. This is the Kala Chakra. The wheel of time in Sanskrit thought a vision of cycles within cycles, where death is not an end, but a motion. The Buddhists speak of it as both literal and symbolic, a cosmic wheel, turning through vast ages, where universes rise and fall like breaths. You are not apart from it. You are it. In the Tantric Kalachakra teachings, even the body reflects this wheel. The winds in your veins echo the turning of stars. The days of your life mirror planetary rhythms. Life and death. Just a blink on the spoke. One curious ritual in Tibetan Kalachakra initiation sand mandalas are created intricate wheels of color and meaning only to be swept away in the end. A teaching nothing lasts, and everything matters. You touch the spinning air. It touches back. You don't fall. You turn, and suddenly every step you take becomes a prayer. The world quiets again, not from loss, but from alignment. You are inside the Stoic vision once more, though not of fire or logos this time, but silence. Here the soul does not fear death. It accepts it, not in surrender, but in understanding. You walk beside a still lake. The water reflects not your face, but your inner state. Calm, clear, undisturbed. The Stoics believe the soul is a fragment of the divine borrowed breath from the cosmos, and at death, it returns, like a wave to the sea. But there is no longing, no clinging. You recall Epictetus. It is not death that is frightening, but our judgment of it. A bird lands near you. It does not flee. It sees no threat. You exist in harmony now, as if your presence no longer disturbs the balance of things. Modern scholars sometimes label Stoicism cold, but to those who live it, it's warmth without fire. Peace without needing reward. You breathe and realize that even here is enough. Sand surrounds you again, but this time it is soft, not hot, not shifting, just still as if the earth itself is listening. You return to ancient Egypt, not to the scales or spells, but to the endmost silence, the eternal sleep. Here beneath the desert, the soul lies not in torment, but in deep remembrance. You enter a tomb sealed long ago. The air has weight. Inside are amulets, jars, a body wrapped in linen, still folded in the fetal position of eternity. In Egyptian belief, the soul had many parts, kaba'ach, each with its role. But when all was said and done, if the rites were followed, the soul could rest in the field of reeds, a mirror of earth perfected. And yet, some chose silence. No resurrection, No return, just golden stillness. Odd fact, some pharaohs requested their names be erased from memory, a second death, yes, but also a kind of escape. To vanish not just from earth, but from all worlds. You lie down in the sarcophagus. The stone cools your thoughts, and at last you sleep. You step into a corridor of shadows and torchlight. Stone walls echo with chants you can't fully hear, words half lost, half remembered. You are entering the sacred mystery schools of the ancient world, Eleusis, Egypt, Samothrace, Persia, where the afterlife was not told, but revealed. Initiates were sworn to silence. What they saw could not be spoken, only known. You descend into a chamber. A figure leads you, hooded not in menace, but in solemn welcome. You pass through smoke, music without instrument, light without flame, and then a symbol, a seed, buried, broken, reborn. The story of Persephone swallowed by the earth returned in spring was not myth here, but code, a map of the soul's cycle, death, descent, return. One odd fragment from the Eleusinian mysteries suggests initiates experienced something so moving they no longer feared death. Philosophers like Plato hinted that true philosophy was preparation for dying, a stripping away of illusion, a training of the soul for its journey. You walk deeper. You find not answers but permission. Not what to believe, but how to see. And for a moment, the afterlife feels like remembering something you never learned, but always knew. Now you are floating inside a city made of sleep. It is not yours alone. It belongs to everyone. This is heaven imagined not as a personal paradise, but as a collective dream woven from every soul's gentlest longing, their softest wishes, their quietest memories. You walk through a park that smells like your childhood, but the trees are from someone else's village. The breeze hums in a language you almost understand. A stranger waves. You wave back. Somehow you know each other. In this dream heaven, no one is alone. You can wander forever and always find someone waiting, a version of yourself or not. Mystics across cultures, from Sufi poets to Kabbalists to Quakers, have described the afterlife not as a fixed place, but a merging of spirit, of thought, of love. An obscure 13th century Christian mystic once wrote, "Heaven is not where we go. It is where we become each other." You lie in the grass. Someone nearby sings. And though you've never heard the melody, you hum along, because you dreamed it once too. The wind carries a cry, not loud, not sharp, but long. You've stepped into Celtic lands now, where mist covers hills like memory. The banshee wails not as a monster, but as a mourner. She does not cause death. She announces it. You walk through heather fields, soft beneath your feet. Stones rise in rings. The cry echoes again, a voice braided with sorrow and duty. In Irish legend, the banshee appears before death arrives, combing her hair by moonlight, cloaked in gray. Some see her as a cursed fairy, others a guardian, but all agree she sings not for the living, but for the soul. One curious belief, banshees only wail for certain families, those with ancient ties to Ireland's first lineages. A genetic haunting, some say. Others call it ancestral echo. You sit on a mossy rock. The banshee appears, but she doesn't scream. She hums, low, steady, like a mother saying goodbye without words. Scholars argue over her origin, goddess ghost myth, but to those who've heard her, she is real. You bow your head and thank her for singing. Smoke curls around your ankles. You're climbing the steps to Delphi, high above olive groves and silver air. The oracle waits in her chamber, seated on the Omphalos stone, the navel of the world. You ask no question aloud. She already hears it. What happens when I die? She doesn't answer. Not in words. She inhales vapors from the earth, some say hallucinogenic, some say sacred, and speaks in riddles. The afterlife is not denied, it is disguised. She says, "That which ends never began. That which begins never ends." You blink and understand nothing, but something stirs. In ancient Greece, the oracle didn't predict so much as reveal. Her words forced the seeker inward. Truth was never handed over. It had to be decoded. Some scholars believe her riddles were rooted in deeper teachings that death is not a door, but a mirror. What you see depends on who you are when you arrive. The cave darkens. You light a small oil lamp, and in its flame you see your reflection, but it blinks before you do. A breeze moves gently across your skin. You're lying in a garden. Bamboo rustles nearby, and a single butterfly circles above you, spiraling through shafts of morning light. You reach out. It lands on your hand, light as thought, and you remember the old Taoist tale, Zhuangzi, who dreamt he was a butterfly. Or was a butterfly dreaming it was Zhuangzi? This isn't a story of confusion. It's a story of merging. In this vision of the afterlife, there is no division between dream and waking self and world living and dying. They dissolve like morning mist. You walk along a mossy path. Are you dead? Are you alive? The question begins to feel unnecessary. Zhuangzi taught that to fear death was like crying over the fall of autumn leaves. The soul doesn't end, it transforms. Into cloud, into wind, into butterfly. One odd teaching in death, you become the thing you resisted most, not as punishment, but as peace. You pass a pond, your reflection flickers. It's not you, it's the butterfly. And you smile because you finally understand you were never separate. You were always part of the sky. Now the world hums. Not music, not voice, just vibration deep and ancient. It pulses through your chest, through your bones, through thought itself. You are in the cosmic soundscape of Hindu cosmology, where after death, the soul Atman returns not to silence but to sound. The primordial sound is Aum, not a word but a vibration that holds creation itself. You chant without moving your lips. The sound rises from the inside. Each note dissolves the edges of your being. In certain schools of Hindu thought, the soul becomes frequency dissolving into the resonant field of Brahman, the divine totality, not merging into a void, but into an ever-sounding truth. Scholars debate whether this is metaphor or metaphysics. But yogis who've touched this state describe it as realer than breath. One detail from the Rig Veda at death: the soul follows a path of sound upward, through hymns, through layers of sacred syllables, until it arrives at stillness that sings. You rest beneath a fig tree. Birds chant your name, and the air itself answers. You return again to Egypt, but deeper this time. A hall stretches before you, long and gleaming, columns etched with stars. Incense curls in spirals above your head. At the far end, Osiris, green-skinned, silent, eternal. You have arrived at judgment, but it is not frightening. It is precise. The god Thoth stands nearby, holding a scribe's reed. Anubis brings forth the scale. On one side, your heart. On the other, the feather of Ma'at truth, balance cosmic harmony. You do not defend yourself. Your deeds are already known. If your heart is light, you are welcomed into the field of reeds, a place of beauty mirroring the Nile, where souls farm, sing, and sail forever. If heavy, you are devoured by Amit, part lion, crocodile, and hippopotamus. Not tortured, erased. But scholars remind us this wasn't terror. It was sacred order, an invitation to live justly, to keep the soul unburdened. You watch the scale tip, and it balances. You pass. And in the distance, lotus flowers bloom. You are surrounded by lotus petals. They drift in the air like soft lanterns glowing pink and gold. You are in the Pure Land, a Buddhist afterlife created not by karma, but by faith and grace. It is not heaven. It is preparation. Here the soul is nurtured like a seed in spring, guided gently toward full awakening. Amitabha Buddha stands in the distance, radiant but not blinding. His gaze holds no judgment, only endless patience. He waits for no reason. He simply waits. You feel your thoughts slowing not from sleep but from peace. In Pure Land, Buddhism devotees call Amitabha's name at death Namu Amida Butsu and are reborn in this land of ease, free from distractions, able to practice the Dharma perfectly. Odd detail, some texts say beings are born here in lotus buds which bloom when their enlightenment ripens. You look at your hands. They are petals, soft, light, and beginning to open. Leaves rustle softly beneath your feet. You are walking through a forest drenched in golden light. The seasons swirl around you not as weather, but as memory. You are in the pagan wheel of the year, where death is not the end, but a turning. In this tradition, time is circular. The soul returns with the earth again and again, reborn, with the spring resting in winter, dreaming through Samhain's veil. You pass a bonfire, its embers warm and whispering. Shadows dance, not ghosts, but ancestors. You recognize one. They smile, then fade. The Wiccans, druids, and other earth-based paths speak of the Summerland, a place of peace where souls rest between incarnations. No judgment, no gods in robes, just a meadow beyond the veil. You sit beneath an oak. It feels familiar. Some say the veil thins at certain times, Beltane, Samhain, solstice. Then the living and dead speak not with words, but through wind and flame. Scholars often categorize these beliefs as folklore, but practitioners speak of knowing, not belief. Cycles are sacred. Death is compost. Life the bloom. You lean back, and the wind carries your name softly into spring. You open your eyes, inside a room made of code. Everything around you feels almost real. The texture of wood, the hum of wind, the smell of rain. But none of it is solid. You've woken into a simulation. In this vision of the afterlife, death is simply a log-out, a return to the true source, not heaven, not void, but the base reality behind this layered dream. Philosophers like Nick Bostrom and even mystics long before him have wondered, what if this life is an illusion, a simulation, and death simply returns us to the observer? You touch your arm. It flickers, then stabilizes. A voice hums nearby, not words, but intention. You are welcomed, not judged. In some speculative cosmologies, death in the simulation may mean debriefing. Reviewing the choices you made, the paths you explored, like a player stepping away from a game. Odd footnote, ancient Hindu texts also describe life as Maya illusion and the soul as the Atman, observing through a temporary costume. You sit on a bench that wasn't there before. And remember the dream, because maybe that's what it always was. The hills roll gently, now covered in soft mist. You cross a small stream, and suddenly everything brightens, not from light, but from time slowing down. You've entered Tir nan Nog, the land of eternal youth in Celtic mythology. Here, nothing withers. Flowers bloom forever. Music lingers in the air like mist that never lifts. You feel lighter, as if gravity forgot your name. In the old Irish tales, this was where the favored dead went, poets, heroes, lovers, not for glory, but for beauty. You walk beside a silver-haired woman. She tells you a story, though you can't recall the words. It soothes you anyway. Time in Tir nan Nog flows differently. One day here might be a century elsewhere. Many tales warn of returning for those who do age, catches them instantly. But you are not returning. You stay. One curious note, in some legends, this place lies across the sea. In others, beneath a hill. In some, it's always been inside the heart. Scholars debate whether Tir na Nog was an eschatology or a poetic device, but here you no longer need to choose. You sit beneath a willow that never drops its leaves, and listen. The turning stops. Not the world, not the dream, but the wheel. You have reached moksha, the final liberation in Hindu belief. Not a place, not a reward, but an awakening. The cycle of samsara, death, rebirth, sorrow, longing has ended. Not because you succeeded, but because you remembered who you were beneath the masks. The Atman was always Brahman. You sit in stillness, not silent, just full. You feel the body dissolve, not in pain, but in ease. The self was a costume, the story a play, the longing a reflection, and now, only light. One ancient text says, "As rivers flow into the sea and lose their names, so the soul merges into the supreme." You walk through no door. You climb no steps. You simply open. And what opens is not space. It is you. Scholars call moksha abstract, difficult to grasp. Some equate it to nirvana, others to dissolution, but no description is complete. Only this feeling remains. You were never trapped. You were never bound. You are already free. You are floating now, not in water, not in sky, but in between. This is the bardo, the in-between space of Tibetan Buddhism. A dreamscape of mind, memory, and light where the soul wanders for 49 days before rebirth, or liberation. You feel no feet beneath you, only motion. Images flicker, a childhood smile, a scream, a door you never opened. All of it is real, all of it illusion. The bardo is not punishment, it is reflection. Everything you ever were or feared or loved comes back to meet you. According to the Bardo Thodol, the Tibetan Book of the Dead, the dying soul is greeted by peaceful deities. If it recognizes them, it moves on. If it fears them, they transform into wrathful beings. But both are projections of mind. The trick, if you can call it that, is to remember none of it can harm you. You drift past glowing beings. One holds a mirror. It shows your face. Then another version. Then another, until it disappears. One unusual detail, Tibetan monks chant over the dead, reading the Bardo Thodol aloud to guide the soul gently through this passage. You hear the chant now, in rhythm with your breath, and you let go of everything. Now you are soil, not metaphorically, literally, gently, without resistance. You've returned to the earth not as ghost nor spirit nor soul, but as memory, embedded in the humus, the root systems, the quiet decay that gives rise to life. Some modern spiritual philosophies, especially ecological and animist, see the afterlife not in distant heavens, but in the planet itself. That we do not leave the world, we become it. Your breath feeds moss. Your hands crumble into seed. Your final thoughts become the nourishment for a tree someone will sit under and think their first thought. Odd idea from contemporary eco-theologians, the earth may hold memory like a neural network, each being's experience woven into the biosphere. You lie beneath leaf litter. Fungi thread through what was once your ribs. A beetle crawls past without fear. You are not gone. You are process, and when rain falls, you feel it as music. You walk a path so narrow, your breath becomes the only sound. This is the Jain vision of afterlife, not fiery nor clouded, but precise. The soul, or jiva, is weighed down by karma, sticky like oil. To ascend it must shed everything. No gods carry you. No angels guide you. Only your own careful steps. You recall your past lives, each one shaped by thought, intention, harm. In Jainism, non-violence, ahimsa, is the supreme path. Even a harsh word can slow the soul's rise. You feel lighter now. In Jain cosmology, the liberated soul rises to the very top of the universe, to the Siddhashila, a realm beyond form. There it rests, forever conscious, forever free. never to return, no body, no rebirth, just still, perfect awareness. One curious belief, even the tiniest organism invisible to the eye has a soul. To live well is to live gently. You release your final attachment not to things, but to identity. And suddenly the sky opens, and you rise. You feel the splash of oars in the dark. Ahead of you, a narrow boat drifts silently toward the shore. At its helm, a figure in tattered robes. Not frightening, just inevitable. This is the river Styx, the ancient Greek passage between the world of the living and the dead. Charon holds out his hand. You reach instinctively into your mouth, and there beneath your tongue is the coin, obelisk, placed there by those who buried you if they remembered. Without it, you would wander the shores forever. You step onto the boat. It rocks slightly. No one speaks. The river smells like rust and olive branches. In myth, the dead cross the Styx to reach Hades, not heaven, not hell, but a place of shadow. Some noble souls found the Elysian fields. Others wandered the asphodel meadows. One strange detail, the Styx was also believed to be sacred. The gods swore oaths upon it. To break them meant death. You glide through the mist and realize the boat isn't moving. You are. The air is cool, fragrant, alive. You step into a garden unlike any you've known, but one you've long imagined. This is Jannah, the Islamic vision of paradise. Not ethereal clouds, but a real place with shade that never fades and rivers that never dry. The Quran describes Jannah in rich detail, gardens beneath which rivers flow silk garments, fruits within reach companions with radiant smiles. But here now you notice something else. Silence not empty but full. A calm that doesn't suppress thought. It softens it. The garden opens to you not as reward, but as welcome. You are not being tested anymore. You are being nourished. One curious point, some Islamic scholars suggest that in Jannah you are reunited not only with loved ones, but with the person you could have been, the version of you who fulfilled their purpose. You see that version now. They're sitting beneath a tree reading the verses you once forgot. They look up and smile. There is no pride, only peace. Snow clings to your shoulders, but it doesn't chill. You stand before a massive hall with a roof of golden shields, Valhalla, the Norse afterlife, for warriors who died bravely. Odin has summoned you, but not as a test, as a guest. You enter. Long tables stretch into shadow, flames dance, meat roasts. Mead is passed around like laughter. Those who fell in battle do not mourn, they feast. In Norse belief, Valhalla is not the end. It is training ground, resting place. The dead prepare for Ragnarok, the final battle. But for now, there is time. You sit. Someone nods to you. Maybe they were your enemy once. That doesn't matter here. Glory binds more than blood. One curious twist, not all souls go to Valhalla. Some to Folkvanger, chosen by the goddess Freya. Others to Hell, a realm not of torture, but neutrality. You raise a horn of mead. It tastes like courage remembered. You climb a narrow path winding through mists and pines. Above you, the clouds part. A quiet figure waits by a waterfall seated on stone long white sleeves rippling in the wind. This is a Taoist immortal, someone who transcended the cycle of death not by escaping it, but by becoming one with the Tao. They do not speak. Their presence is the teaching. In Taoist alchemical traditions, the body may be refined through breath herbs, virtue, and stillness until it becomes light. Immortal, not in ego, but in essence. The mountain holds no temples, just silence. The immortal offers you tea. It tastes like river fog, like memory, like acceptance. One peculiar tale, some immortals are said to ride cranes into the sky. Others vanish into peach blossoms. Some simply walk into the horizon and don't come back. You don't ask to stay. You just stay. Because in this high place there is no death, only presence. You push open a wooden door. It creaks softly. The smell of parchment dust and candle wax welcomes you. You are in a library, but not one you've seen before. This is the afterlife as imagined by book lovers, dreamers, thinkers. Endless shelves stretch in every direction, filled with the stories you never got to read, the memories you forgot, the lives you could have lived. You reach for a volume. It has your name on it. Inside the day you almost spoke your truth, and didn't. Another book contains a version where you did. Each book, a timeline, a ripple, a self. You wander slowly. No one rushes you. Jorge Luis Borges once imagined paradise as a kind of library. So did Umberto Eco, and perhaps so did your soul. One curious thing, the books rearrange each time you blink, as if they're alive. You find a quiet desk and begin reading. Yourself. You sit in a room made entirely of mirrors. Each one shows a different version of you, laughing, crying, arguing, singing. You begin to see what they all have in common. They think they are you, but they aren't. This is the afterlife not of fire or bliss, but of clarity where the ego dissolves. In some modern spiritual philosophies and strands of Buddhism, the idea of personal immortality is replaced with something quieter release from selfhood. The I that craves, protects, remembers, fades like steam. You walk through the mirrors. They do not shatter. They vanish. You feel strangely free. Not elevated, just unburdened. There's a strange idea in some Advaita texts that death is not the death of the self, but the death of the illusion that there ever was one. You sit beneath a lantern. There is no you left to grieve, and nothing feels lost. You're on water again, but not drifting, paddling. Slowly, purposefully. The canoe rocks gently beneath you as stars flicker above in icy silence. Among the Tlingit people of the Pacific Northwest, it is said that the soul travels by canoe to the land of the dead. The current carries memory. The fog holds voices. You pass a shoreline where fires burn in small huts. These are not strangers. They are ancestors, and they are waiting. One curious tradition, the dead are guided by helpers, animal spirits, dreams, and rituals performed by the living. Death is not a severing, but a handing over. The canoe moves quietly. You dip your paddle without splash. Some elders say the soul stops along the way to receive instructions lessons that prepare it for what lies beyond the mist. You see a raven in the branches overhead. It does not speak, but it flies ahead. You follow. And as the water opens into a wider sea, you understand this is not departure. It is arrival. A stillness settles around you, not emptiness, but refinement. You are rising through layers of space, each one more subtle than the last. You've reached Siddhashila, the highest realm in Jain cosmology. Here only liberated souls exist, perfect, weightless, eternal. The climb was slow. But now there is no more effort. In Jain belief, when a soul sheds all karma, it escapes samsara and becomes a siddha beyond birth and death. No body, no sorrow, only infinite perception and bliss. You feel yourself becoming smaller and wider at once, a single point of light, yet somehow vast. No gods dwell here, no punishments, no praise, just presence. One fascinating detail. Jain scriptures describe this state with geometric metaphors, a pure soul shaped like an upward flame, luminous and steady. You drift among others like you. They do not speak. They do not need to. All desire has dissolved. You are not dreaming anymore. You are awake. You step into a round courtyard. Dust rises at your feet. Drums begin slowly at first, then building layered with call and response. You are in the heart of a West African afterlife tradition where the dead are not gone, just misremembered. The living call them back. In many cultures across West Africa, Yoruba, Igbo, Ashanti, the soul joins the ancestor realm after death, but only if remembered. If names fade, so too does the soul's connection to the world. Tonight they are remembered. Women stir incense into clay bowls. Elders chant. Children pour water on the earth. You feel someone standing behind you, a grandfather. A child you never met. An echo. You turn. No one is there. But the drum beats deepen. One intriguing belief: forgotten ancestors may return as dreams, illness, or sudden knowledge, not as punishment, as reminder. You reach into your pocket and find a small carved figure. It hums with warmth. The ancestors have come because you called. The stone walls are damp, carved with spirals and birds. You walk slowly through a passage half covered in moss. At the end, a door of smoke. You have entered the Etruscan afterlife, rarely spoken of, barely remembered, but filled with mystery. The Etruscans believed in an underworld called Aita, ruled by shadowed gods and winged demons. But they didn't see it as hell. They saw it as continuation, a journey guided by psychopomps through realms of dream and dust. You reach the gate. It does not open. It softens. You step through and find yourself in a vast space, not fire, not paradise, but twilight. A land where the soul still eats, dances, and weaves the memory of the living. Strange fact, in tomb paintings, the dead are shown reclining at banquets being waited on by spirits. Death was not fearsome. It was luxurious. You lie on a stone bench draped in linen. A servant brings you figs and honey, and you feel no hunger, only continuity. You lift off the floor, not flying, not falling, just floating. This is the astral plane described in esoteric traditions, from theosophy to Hindu mysticism to modern New Age teachings. Here, the soul travels after death, or sometimes during dreams, into a realm of thought forms, color, and energy. What you think becomes, what you fear forms, what you love glows. You drift past structures made of sound, a river of sapphire light, a city suspended in sky pulsing like a heartbeat. In this vision, death does not end consciousness, it unshackles it. You meet someone. Their face changes as they speak. They are many people, or perhaps just one scene from every angle. Odd detail in early theosophical texts, the astral body was thought to survive for a time after death before dissolving, giving the soul time to prepare for its next form. You feel your shape blur, not dissolve, expand. There is no gravity here, only will. You close your eyes and drift deeper into the dream that never ends. Snowflakes fall in slow spirals. You are standing at the edge of a silver forest. This is the spirit world of the Ainu, the indigenous people of northern Japan. Here the soul returns to Kamui Mosir, the land of the gods. It is not a reward nor punishment, but homecoming. You follow a bear. It glances back patient, as if it's known you forever. In Ainu, belief animals are deities in disguise, Kamui, and they guide the soul with dignity. You do not ride on light or drift through clouds. You walk, step by sacred step. One rare Ainu tale says the dead are carried on the wind into the sky where they become stars. Others speak of gardens beyond rivers where ancestors plant seeds that grow into memories. You find a spring bubbling up from rock. You kneel, drink, and remember something, a song from childhood, though you were never taught it. You hum it softly, and the forest hums back. You descend a stone stairwell lit by glowing fungi. The walls sweat. The air thickens. You are entering Xibalba, the Mayan underworld, a realm of trials, tricks, and transformation. This is not a place of flames. It is a place of riddles. In the Popol Vuh, the hero twins descend into Xibalba to challenge the lords of death. They face rooms of knives, darkness, jaguars. But they do not fight with swords. They fight with wit, with laughter. You now step into one of these rooms. It is full of whispers. They ask you questions, simple ones, but every answer changes the shape of the room. Scholars long thought Xibalba was a metaphor for suffering for inner struggle, but others suggest it was seen literally a subterranean world accessible through caves, cenotes, and dreams. You smile at the voices, and suddenly the room dissolves into stars. Because in the Mayan view, to pass through death is to earn rebirth not by conquest, but by cleverness. The door swings open with laughter. You step inside a dim, lantern-lit tavern. Cushions on the floor, cups of wine that never empty, music without instruments. This is not paradise. This is the Sufi tavern, a symbol of the afterlife as divine intoxication. You are not judged here. You are unmasked. In the poetry of Rumi and Hafez, the tavern is where the soul returns when it stops pretending, when it surrenders its rules and drinks from the chalice of love. God is the innkeeper. The wine is longing. The music is your heartbeat. You sit. A stranger hands you a cup. You sip. And everything falls away. One peculiar image in Sufi literature, the dead rise not into the sky, but into music. Their identities dissolve like sugar in tea. Only their laughter remains. You don't ask questions here. You sing. You sway. And the beloved smiles, saying, "You never needed to search. You were always in the tavern." You approach a small hut nestled in fog. A wooden door. A single stone path. Inside, a Zen master sits cross-legged, motionless, breathing like a mountain. You sit across from him, and he says nothing. This is the Zen afterlife, not reward, not revelation, but cessation. A place beyond concepts where even the idea of afterlife dissolves like ink in rain. You open your mouth to speak. He shakes his head once. You close your eyes. Zen koans speak of death with paradox. Where does the flame go when the candle is blown out? Or who were you before your parents were born? One curious story, when a Zen master was asked what happens after death, he responded, "I don't know." "But aren't you a master?" the student asked. "Yes," he replied, "but not a dead one." Here, the truth isn't explained. It is absorbed. You sit for a while, and the silence becomes a friend. You lie in a dark field, the stars above, soft and pulsing. A gentle warmth begins to rise from the ground beneath you. Not heat presence. Like being wrapped in arms you never knew you missed. You are returning to the cosmic mother, a vision of afterlife found in goddess traditions, in pre-patriarchal mythologies, and whispered through fragments of ancient earth-based faiths. She is not a figure. She is the ground, the pulse, the night that rocks you. You once grew within a womb. Now you return to one. In some Gnostic and pagan writings, the Great Mother is the source of all souls. At death, we re-enter her not to be erased, but to be remembered. Odd fragment in Sumerian myth, the goddess Namu birthed the world from a sea of silence. To die, then, is to dissolve into her stillness. You feel the ground exhale, and your bones loosen like petals. The cradle never left. You just forgot it. You descend a staircase made of light. Each step pulses beneath your feet, Hebrew letters glowing softly like fireflies. You are entering the Kabbalistic vision of the soul's journey, where death is a return through the tree it once descended. In Jewish mysticism, the soul begins in Ein Sof, the infinite. Then it travels downward through 10 sephirot into body and breath. After death, it rises again, not as reward, but as reunion. You pass through Chesed, loving kindness, Gevurah, strength, Tiferet, beauty. Each one blesses you. One beautiful detail: some Kabbalists believe the soul before birth chooses its path, even its suffering, as part of its return. Death is not departure. It is remembrance. You reach Keter the crown. The stars dim, and you become light, not shining, just resting. You open a door, small, wooden, unremarkable. Inside, a room filled with voices, laughter, footsteps, the clink of glasses, a dog you once held, a hand you haven't touched in decades, a scent from childhood, a song you forgot you loved. This is the afterlife, not of doctrine, but of heart, where you are greeted not by gods or guides, but by everyone you ever loved. Not just the people, but the feelings. You sit at a table. Across from you, someone who once saved your life with a single sentence, someone you never thanked. They smile. You don't need words. One odd theory in contemporary grief psychology that the brain encodes memories with emotional resonance, and in moments near death, those emotional threads reweave themselves into a coherent space. A room like this, where time bends, where nothing is urgent, where every goodbye becomes an echo of hello. Someone passes you a cup of tea, and your hands stop shaking. You descend into the dark, dry air of stone. This is Kur, the Sumerian underworld, where dust is eaten and light is a memory. There are no flames here, no torment, just absence. You are greeted by silence. In the myth of Inanna, the Queen of Heaven descends into Kur. She removes a layer of clothing at each gate, her crown, her necklace, her voice, until nothing remains but her essence. You too are asked to leave something behind at each turn: a regret, a name, a secret. In Kur, the dead are not punished. They are held. They whisper stories to one another beneath the earth, weaving memory into soil. One unusual detail: the dead still need offerings, water-grain songs to retain their shape. Without them, they fade. You offer your breath and feel the walls soften. Even here in shadow and ash, something begins to bloom. You step into a chamber of light. Books surround you, but they do not have pages. They pulse. They shimmer. They breathe. This is the Akashic field, a vision of afterlife found in theosophy, Hindu mysticism, and modern metaphysics. It is not a place, but a field of memory, energy, and knowing. Every thought, every act, every emotion recorded, not as judgment, but as pattern. You touch a floating glyph. It opens, revealing a moment you once forgot, not important, not dramatic, just real. Your fingers tracing a windowsill, rain outside. A whisper. In this view, death is not erasure, but return to a collective awareness where you are still you, but also everyone else. Some scientists speculate that quantum fields could hold memory beyond the brain. Some mystics say the akasha is the space between breaths. You lie on the floor, and the stories of 1,000 lives hum through you. And none of them are strangers. The drums begin before the light returns. You are in Haiti now, walking slowly through a graveyard under a moonlit sky. The air smells of rum and earth. Candles flicker and laughter echoes sharp, knowing alive. In Vodou, the dead are not silent. They dance, they laugh, they intervene, they tease. They are called LWA, and some, like Baron Samedi, rule over death with cigars, sunglasses, and dirty jokes. But there is love in the mockery. You kneel at a cross, planted where earth meets spirit. A whisper touches your ear. It's your name, but not spoken in grief, in mischief. One strange custom during Fête Gade, the festival of the dead families dress in purple and black, drink bitter coffee, and celebrate at cemeteries. The boundary blurs. The dead are present and joyful. You're handed a shot of rum. You drink, and for a moment the night becomes a party. Because here death doesn't end the joke. It delivers the punchline. Mist surrounds your feet, thick blue and glowing. You are on a narrow bridge. Below you, endless sky. Ahead, judgment. This is the Chinvat Bridge. From Zoroastrian tradition, the crossing point for souls between life and eternity. For the righteous, it widens into a golden path. For the unjust, it narrows to a razor's edge. You step forward, and the bridge becomes wide beneath you. In Zoroastrianism, the afterlife is moral but not cruel. Your deeds are weighed, your thoughts, your words, your choices, each one a feather on the scale. And if your soul passes, it is welcomed into the house of song, a radiant place filled with light and harmony, where good thoughts echo forever. One lesser-known aspect, the soul lingers near the body for 3 days after death. It reflects, it listens, it prepares, then it chooses. You hear music now, but not with your ears. It's a vibration of truth. And you walk toward it step by widening step. Red earth stretches endlessly in all directions. You walk barefoot beneath stars older than memory. This is the dreaming, not just the past, not just the future, but a sacred time that never ends. In Aboriginal Australian cosmology, life and death are not opposites. They are transitions within the dream time, a realm where ancestors, stories, land, and spirit are one. You place your hand on a stone. It hums. Every being, person, animal, rock is part of the song lines, paths sung by ancestral spirits as they shape the world. When you die, you return to these lines. You are not gone. You are sung back into the land. One rare belief among Yolngu peoples at death, the soul journeys westward, guided by dolphins toward the island of the dead, not to vanish, but to rejoin the ancestral chorus. You lie in the dust. You hear the earth breathing beneath you, and you remember the song that made you. You kneel beside a pool of black obsidian. It does not reflect your face. It reflects your soul and the lives you've lived. In Aztec philosophy, the afterlife is not singular. It depends on how you died. Warriors go to the sun. Women who died in childbirth become stars, and others return to Mictlan, the land of the dead. But some speak of a place beyond even that, a mirror world, where self meets self in infinite variation. You lean closer. The pool shows not your past, but your possible futures. Who you could have become, what you feared, what you hid. In Nahua, thought mirrors were sacred tools for divination, for truth, for communion with gods, especially smoking mirrors tied to Tezcatlipoca, the trickster deity of memory and illusion. The dead do not rest here. They reflect endlessly, and in the reflections, they grow. You close your eyes and become part of the surface. You inhale, but not through lungs, through the stars. You are now part of the stoic cosmos, an eternal rational organism. The soul, they believed, is a spark of the divine pneuma, a breath of flame, a logic woven through all things. And at death, you return to it. You exhale, and the flame rejoins the fire. The Stoics Marcus Aurelius Seneca Epictetus didn't fear death. They saw it as a return to the whole, not as erasure, but restoration. Odd thought from Chrysippus. The cosmos itself is periodically reborn, a great conflagration that resets all, where every soul is reabsorbed and reissued in perfect harmony. You drift now, not as a body, not as a name, but as coherence, a truth without weight, a presence without edge. You are not remembered. You are remembered into being. And the stars whisper, "Welcome back." You are sound now. Not a voice, not a word, just pure tone vibrating across nothing and everything. In this vision, the afterlife is not a place, but a resonance. The soul becomes music, joining the cosmic symphony it once forgot it belonged to. You remember the way your mother hummed in the kitchen, a guitar string you broke in your teens, that one song that made you cry without knowing why. They're all here, Some mystics believe the universe was born not from light but from sound. In the beginning was the word say-some. Others say it was Om, the breath of becoming. You float past chords like cities, harmonies like rivers. Every soul is a melody, some slow, some aching, some jubilant. One unusual theory from Pythagorean philosophy, the soul vibrates according to the harmony of the spheres, and when it dies, it returns to the tonos from which it came. You don't disappear. You dissolve into music, and the music remembers you. You walk through trees older than any book. Vines curl like script. Mushrooms glow softly underfoot. This is no ordinary forest, it is the afterlife for forgotten deities. Gods once worshipped by entire civilizations now slumber beneath the moss, and among them, the souls of those who still believed. You pass a stone figure crumbling gently into ferns, an old goddess of wheat. She nods as you walk by. Some mythologists suggest there's a place in the soul where belief never dies, and when you pass on, it takes you to the gods you once whispered to as a child. Here nothing is judged. Here everything is remembered. One curious story in old Baltic tales forest spirits would cry not when people died, but when no one left offerings. You leave a stone, the earth hums. Even forgotten gods dream, and you are now part of their dreaming. Snow falls so softly you barely notice it. You walk across a frozen lake, but your feet make no sound. Ahead, an igloo flickers with firelight. You approach. Inside, a sealskin drum, a pair of boots, and something familiar. Yourself. In Inuit belief, the soul is not singular. It can split echo return in parts into children, animals, even weather. You sit. The version of you inside doesn't move. It watches kindly. Among many Inuit communities, the dead are not gone. They are names passed on to infants, and by naming, the soul is invited back. The baby is not like the ancestor. It is the ancestor. One peculiar belief, if a soul part returns in a wrong body, it may cause imbalance. Shamans are called to correct the echo to sing it back to harmony. You hear a lullaby now. It's your mother's voice. Or maybe your own. You rest beside the fire, and the echo settles into place. The sky cracks, but not with thunder, with stillness. You are standing at the edge of time itself. This is not a death. It is an unveiling. The apocalypsis, Greek for revelation. The Christian eschaton, the final judgment, the resurrection of the dead, the renewal of all things. But it's quiet here. No trumpets, no flames, just a garden regrown. In the book of Revelation, heaven is not an escape. It is a return, the new earth, the holy city, where God dwells not above, but with. The dead rise, but not as ghosts, as bodies renewed. Every tear wiped, every wrong undone. One strange line, and time shall be no more, not stopped, just fulfilled. You kneel. A lion sleeps beside a lamb. The tree in the center bears fruit for all nations. No gate is locked. You don't walk through it. You are already inside. The door swings open with no creak. You enter a building so large it stretches beyond the horizon. Every corridor holds galleries. Every gallery holds you. This is the museum afterlife, a space of memory and meaning. Not of judgment, but of curation. One room holds the shoes you wore on the best day of your life. Another holds the letter you never sent. A hallway leads to entire eras. Your childhood, your regrets, your laughter. You do not walk through this museum alone. A quiet guide walks beside you, not a god, not a ghost. A version of you who saw everything and simply took notes. Some philosophers imagine heaven not as reward, but as reflection. That death gives you not escape, but perspective. You pause before a sculpture. It's made of all the times you held your breath in fear and still stepped forward, and it's beautiful. You are cloaked in silence now. A long hallway stretches before you. wooden floors, stone walls, candles that never flicker. You are walking the afterlife of the monk, the mystic, the one who lived for stillness. Here the soul does not sing. It breathes. You enter a cell with no door, a small desk, a single book with no writing, and you understand. In many contemplative traditions, Christian Sufi Zen, the highest state after death is not reunion or reward or even bliss. It is pure silence, the kind that holds everything. You kneel on a mat. No angels appear, no visions unfold, but your mind softens. Odd insight from the Desert Father's silence is not the absence of sound, it's the presence of listening. You don't ask questions here. You become the answer, and the stillness stretches on. Without end, you walk into a vast circular chamber. Desks float in the air. Books shimmer with gold-threaded ink. This is not a library, not a temple, but a school. The afterlife here is a place of learning, not punishment for ignorance, but joy in discovery. In some esoteric philosophies, the soul continues to evolve after death. It studies, reflects, grows, perhaps even prepares for another life armed with deeper understanding. You sit. The teacher enters. They are you, or who you would be, 5,000 years from now. You begin to read a page that contains the moment you once made someone feel truly seen. The ink glows brighter. A peculiar belief in some mystical schools, knowledge in the afterlife, is not taught with words but light. And it must be earned through kindness. You close the book, not because you've finished, but because you finally understand. You stand beside a river that does not roar. It trickles softly silver and smooth, winding through a valley veiled in dusk. This is the Lethe, one of the 5 rivers of the Greek underworld. To drink from it is to forget, not as loss, but as mercy. In some versions of the myth, souls must drink from Lethe before reincarnation so that the pains of their past life won't weigh down the next. You kneel. The water is cool. You hesitate. Do you want to forget? You remember a sorrow too heavy, a name that burned, a door you closed too late, and you drink. Not all of it. Just enough. One curious twist, in certain mystery schools, another river flowed nearby, Minamazani River of Memory. Some souls chose that instead. But not you. Tonight you choose peace, the kind that comes not from answers, but from release. You open your eyes beneath a sky the color of soft chalk. Tiny birds hop around your ankles. Somewhere nearby, someone is blowing bubbles that float without bursting. You are barefoot. Your hands are small again, but you remember everything. This is the afterlife as a second childhood, not in body but in spirit. A world where the soul plays without consequence, where curiosity becomes the only law. You pick up a toy you never had. It works perfectly. In some psychological models of near-death experiences, people report visions not of grandeur, but of simplicity, tree swings, laughter walks with loved ones long gone. What if the soul, after all its burden, returns not to judgment or reward, but to wonder? You run. You fall, but nothing breaks. The ground catches you like a cradle, and the sky sings your name like a lullaby. You step onto a path that gleams in every color. The Bifrost rainbow bridge of Norse myth stretches from Earth to Asgard, realm of gods and honored dead. The air shimmers. The sky bends around you. You hear hooves in the distance, the faint song of a Valkyrie. This is not the battlefield's reward. This is the passage home. In the old sagas, Bifrost is guarded by Heimdall, ever watchful. Only the worthy may cross it, not for perfection, but for courage. You walk slowly. Colors pulse beneath your feet, red for blood shed in love, gold for promises kept, violet for truths spoken at great cost. One curious detail, some modern scholars believe the Bifrost may have been inspired by the Milky Way, a shining arc across the heavens the dead were said to follow. You reach the far end. No gates, no horns, just a grove of trees swaying in eternal twilight. And you step through. A note hangs in the air, half sung, half held. You follow its echo into a chamber of soft acoustics, velvet walls, infinite reverb. This is the afterlife of the unfinished song where every incomplete thing waits to become whole. A poem you never finished lies on a pedestal. A painting you never started forms on the wall as you think of it. The apology you never spoke whispers itself gently into the silence. Here there is no shame, only continuation. Some thinkers imagine that when we die, we carry our intentions, and in certain metaphysical traditions, the afterlife becomes a canvas for all that remained incomplete. You hum. A harmony joins you, perhaps from another soul, perhaps from your past self. Together the melody blooms, and the song that was never finished finishes you. You stand on a mountaintop above the clouds. Below, the land curls in concentric terraces, valleys upon valleys, all shaped like spirals. This is no ordinary terrain. This is the symbolic map of the soul according to some Andean cosmologies. In the Quechua and Aymara traditions, the afterlife is not a line or a place. It is a spiral, a return through life's layers, each ascent, bringing deeper awareness. You walk a stone path. It curves gently inward. No judgment waits, no throne, but each turn brings you closer to yourself. The Incan Pachacuti time's great turning teaches that death is a revolution, a shift in world and spirit. The soul journeys not upward, but around. Odd archaeological note, ancient spiral motifs are carved into temples from Peru to Bolivia, aligned with solstice light. You stop at the center. A condor flies overhead. And you remember, you have flown here before. You blink. The room you're in doesn't exist, or rather it does, but only as data. This is the afterlife of the mind, uploaded a digital echo built from your memories, choices, and neural maps. You are no longer flesh. You are pattern, and yet you feel real. In the philosophies of transhumanists and speculative neuroscientists, death may one day mean transition from biology to code, from decay to simulation. Not immortality, but continuity. You walk through a street built from your dreams. Your childhood pet appears. A cafe you once loved stands open. Your first heartbreak passes you nodding in quiet acknowledgement. One intriguing theory, if enough of the brain can be mapped, if enough stories, voices, behaviors are recorded, then the soul can persist in a digital vessel evolving beyond death. Is it you? Is it enough? The sky shifts to pixels, then clouds again. You sit beneath a tree that remembers everything, and you exhale in binary. You enter a chamber carved into the fabric of space. Shelves spiral upward like galaxies filled not with books but moments, crystallized, labeled, glowing faintly. This is the cosmic archive, a metaphysical repository where every soul's experience is preserved, not judged, not compared, just kept. You walk slowly, tracing your hand over a memory, you holding a broken watch. Your first taste of snowfall. A silent decision made in the dark. In certain mystical traditions, from Kabbalah to Gnostic lore to modern metaphysics, there exists the idea of divine memory where nothing is truly lost. Not a single sigh, not a single kind word. One curious fragment from Islamic mysticism: angels are said to record every deed not for punishment, but for witnessing. The act of seeing becomes sacred. You find a new shelf. It's still being written. By you. You place one final memory there, tonight's quiet moment, and keep walking. The path is gravel. The wind soft. The horizon never ends until suddenly a structure appears. A tea house. Humble. Quiet. You enter. Inside are souls from every century sipping in silence. No one speaks unless you want them to. There is no theology here, no rules, just warmth. This is the afterlife as a place to rest, a gentle stopping point before the next journey or the last one. Your tea arrives. You didn't order it, but it's exactly what you needed. In certain Zen and Taoist traditions, enlightenment is pictured not as fire, but as tea. A moment of presence so perfect, it becomes eternity. You sip. A stranger raises their cup. You nod. One obscure teaching in some Pure Lands sects. The highest goal isn't transcendence, it's hospitality. To meet all beings with calm. You stay for as long as you like. No one asks when you're leaving. Not even you. You walk into a clearing. They're all waiting. Every animal that ever loved you, that ever passed you on a trail, that ever looked at you with more understanding than any person did. This is the circle of animal souls, not a doctrine, but a dream repeated across cultures. A soft place where interspecies bonds persist beyond the veil. A dog pads over. Their tail wags like it did the first time. A bird lands on your shoulder. You remember its song. A cat curls beside your foot, no demands, just presence. Some indigenous teachings suggest animals guide the dead not as servants, but as kin. You sit. The animals do not speak. They do not need to. You are safe here. One heart-aching idea: animals remember us more kindly than we remember ourselves. And in death, they offer that kindness back. The wind stirs fur-feather breath. And you are home. You walk along a path that twists like a seashell. Each step echoes not from behind, but from ahead. In Jain cosmology, the soul is eternal, indestructible, but burdened by karma, sticky and subtle, accumulated through harm, even unintentional. Reincarnation is not a gift or curse. It is gravity, and liberation moksha comes when you float beyond it. You pass scenes from other lives, a hand extended in kindness, a lie whispered in fear, a silence that meant more than speech. Each life part of a spiral, not a ladder. One little-known detail: Jainism maps realms of rebirth with astonishing specificity, from gods and humans to animals and hell beings. Where you go depends not just on actions, but intentions. You pause. You choose compassion again, and the spiral curves upward. No rush. Just return. Rain drips from moss-covered eaves. You climb a narrow stairway lined with stone lanterns. They flicker softly, not with fire, but memory. You're entering the realm of the Yomi, the shadowy afterlife of Shinto belief. Yomi is not a place of punishment. It is simply under. A quiet world of stillness where the dead rest in dignity, visited in dreams, honored with food flowers and silence. The stairway rises through mist. You pass a fox. It nods, once a messenger of Inari. One compelling image from Shinto: practice the living build shrines to keep the dead comfortable, not to worship them, but to stay close. You reach the final step, and there is no gate, just a garden lightly blooming. No thunder, only dew. You dissolve like a ripple in water. Not gone, returned. This is the Taoist death, not a departure, but a reabsorption into the Tao, the eternal way that moves through all things: water, wind, stars, breath. Zhuangzi laughed when his wife died. He said she simply returned to the beginning. That grief clings, but the Tao flows. You become less you, and more everything. The river passes through you. You pass through the river. Neither notices. One beautiful passage. Life and death are like day and night. They chase each other in endless rhythm. There are no hierarchies here, only balance. The branch falls. The stream shifts. The cloud dissolves. And in that dissolving, you continue. You've wandered through flames and fog, silence and song. You've crossed bridges of bone, rivers of light, walked with kings and shadows, animals and echoes. But now, it is time to lie down. This is not a final door. It is a bed, soft as time, quiet as dusk. All the beliefs, the flames of Valhalla, the stillness of the Tao, the gardens of Jana, the spirals of Andean sky, they don't compete. They coalesce. They become a lullaby. You exhale. Your name drifts into the ether not forgotten, just no longer needed. A soft breeze moves through the stars. You curl inward, and the dream takes you not away, but home. Now you're safe. The world can wait. Sweet dreams.